Welcome back to another interview series that we call What's Your Story? This is just an opportunity we're taking to talk with a number of our members here in Mid-America about what life has been like for them growing up and their journey here, not only in America, but in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And today we have a very special guest, someone who I have really come to admire and appreciate greatly, Pastor Roberto Correa. Pastor Roberto wears a number of hats. He's a pastor here in Mid-America. He's also the Hispanic coordinator for the Kansas-Nebraska Conference. He's also the coordinator for the Mid-America Union for Hispanic Ministries. I would say that he is plenty busy, and we're glad that he's taken the time to come and spend a few minutes with us today. Pastor Roberto, maybe before we get into your journey, maybe people will be curious. Tell us a little bit about the Hispanic work going on in Mid-America. Tell us a little bit about the number of churches and the membership we have and what's happening.
Well, we have, thank you for having me today, Pastor Gary. We have around 100 Hispanic churches across our Mid-America Union. With almost 40 pastors within full-time, part-time, and some volunteer pastors. The work is growing, so we are really happy. I don't remember the total membership of the Hispanic, but I know that we are growing every year, and it's getting stronger and stronger, the work among the Hispanic churches right here in Mid-America.
You know, I don't think we have many more than about 500 churches in Mid-America, and so you represent 20% of the churches in North America. That's fantastic, and I will say that the Hispanic community is one of the fastest growing segments of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Mid-America.
Yeah, it is.
Well, you've had quite a journey to get to where you are and have all this responsibility you have. Pastor Roberto, tell us, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And tell us about your journey to America.
Okay, I was born in Argentina, in a state we call province over there, very close to Brazil. This is the north part of Argentina. My parents, they were a teacher in the Adventist school. So I grew up in the Adventist church. I was raised as an Adventist. I went to the Adventist school and high school, and then I took my theology major down there in Argentina. And in 2001, I immigrated to the United States. I was working in Oregon for a short period of time, and then I was 7 years in Montana Conference, and then I am working for Kansas, Nebraska for almost 12 years. Yeah,
that's fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, I met my wife in Argentina, in the university. She's a dietitian, and we got married. But our kids, they were born in Montana. So we are from Argentina, but our kids, they were born right here in the United States, in Montana. So my older son is right here at Union College. He just started, this is his first years. And my other son is at the Topeka Adventist School right now. He's 12 years old. Yeah.
Very good. Two boys.
Two boys.
Yeah, very good. So, what has it been like, your journey in America? It's quite a change from Argentina to the United States and Montana and Kansas, Nebraska. What's your journey been like? How's it been becoming acclimated to this new country?
Well, when I got the invitation to come to work to Oregon Conference, when I was in Argentina, I thought, well, in 2 months I will be fluent in English. I will be around English-speaking people, and that was my first shock, that I didn't learn the language as fast I thought. I'm still learning, I'm still struggling with the pronunciation and many other things. But that was my first shock, because I came and I didn't understand much. Even I went to the first Sabbath, I went to a church. I just understood few things, and so that was my first struggle, trying to communicate, to understand, and so. But by the grace of God, I tried to learn, because I noticed that was something that I needed. If I want to stay here, work right here, and live right here, learn the language and to communicate. So that was my first thing. So, of course, when you don't know the language, you don't know if they're saying nice things to you or bad things to you. But for my surprise, the Adventist church in Oregon, they were really welcome. They were really, they have a lot of patience. They understood us, they embraced us. Even we couldn't communicate, the language of love was felt for us. Okay.
Okay. So being part of the church helped a great deal in becoming acclimated to living in America, it sounds like.
Yeah.
And by the way, your English is good now. Your English is way better than my Spanish. I can assure you.
Yeah.
Any other challenges that you find becoming acclimated besides the language?
Sometimes we have different way to do things. This is more cultural things.
Sure.
That from the kind of food that I was used to eat, and so things that are done. In every country, people think differently, so it's kind of part of the culture. So the other part was to learn the culture, how the American things, how they do things. So, but when you start knowing each other, you know that we are not very different. We have the same need, we have the same dreams, and we are the same desire to get prepared to the kingdom of God.
Now, you are first generation coming to America, and you have two boys that are second generation. They were born here in America, and this is the homeland they know. I'm sure they have visited Argentina and met family and everything, but this is home to them. How is life different for them than it was for you coming as first generation?
Well, one thing is, let me start talking about my kids. Even though they can speak Spanish, their culture is this culture, America. So I was telling my son, why you don't go 1 year to Argentina? And he was afraid. He said, I don't know the culture. I understand everything, but I don't know how they're going to treat me. It was out of his comfort zone. So, and many kids, they have the same things. They grew up in a different family because we speak Spanish at home, and they speak English outside the house. And so sometimes they attend to a Hispanic church, and they go to English school. So they are living in kind of both worlds right here in the United States. But sometimes they are feeling that they are part of the Hispanic. Sometimes they're feeling they are part of the Anglo world. So this is their challenge to fit, because they feel that they are not fully gonna fit in the Hispanic world, because they don't think like we, the first generation. And so they're trying to find the identity. And so we as a parents, I am as a pastor also, I'm telling the members, I don't care if your son goes to a Hispanic or Anglo church. The only thing I care if they follow Jesus. The language is not important. So some people are trying to keep their children with the same traditions, singing in Spanish, reading the Bible in Spanish, but the kid, they want to read in English, to sing the song, be like the other kids, so be part of that. So my point of view is the church is not to teach the language. We are here to teach about Jesus and the way of salvation. So.
Do we have any Hispanic churches in Mid-America that are specifically catering to the second generation Hispanic, where they have some of the culture, but maybe they worship in English? I mean, are there several churches around that cater especially to the second generation?
Well, I'm trying to think. I think there's one in Colorado, or at least they have a second serving for the second generation. So because the Hispanic, they like to be together, they like the food, but they worship, I think, in English because it's the language that they understand. And so, but it's something that funny that my kids, when they pray in Spanish. Because I taught them how to pray in Spanish. So they're having a mix in their life. So, but they're happy to be here, and we are happy also to be here. Sure.
So we have Hispanic churches in 6 conferences, all 6 conferences here in Mid-America, and they're all growing. What counsel do you have for us as a union, as a sisterhood of churches? What are some of the things we can do to continue to bless the Hispanic work and its growth, and also to make sure they feel welcome and a part of the sisterhood of churches?
Well, let me tell a little story. When I was in Montana conference, one day, head elder from one of the churches in Idaho called me because I was the closer Hispanic pastor to his church. And he invited me to come over there. And he told me, I want you to give the Sabbath school in Spanish, and then I want you to preach in Spanish, and we'll have somebody to translate it into English. So we set a day, and he said, I'm going to pay for all the expenses. And I went over there. And they have around, I think, 15 or 17 Hispanic attending to the Anglo church. And I gave him the Sabbath school, I preached in Spanish. So after the potluck, he told me, you know, I was the one who thought that if you are in America, you should learn the language and you should come and worship in Anglo church or English-speaking church. And I was opposed to having a Hispanic church. And so he was the head elder, so he had some influence in the church. But few months ago, he was sent to Europe for his job. And he was over there for, I think, 3 weeks. And he went to church on Sabbath. And this is what he told me. When I was there, I went in and I got out and I didn't understand anything. I knew they have a Sabbath school, they have a sermon, but I didn't understand anything. So when I was over there, I thought, well, this is what my Hispanic brothers and sisters are experiencing in my own church. They are not fully fed spiritually because the language barrier is not something that you can just say, well, I'm going to learn and you will learn. It takes time. For some people it's more easier, for others more difficult. And so that was breaking point for him, because he said, I will come back, I will make everything possible to have something in Spanish to help those Hispanic people in my church. So saying that, I think one of the biggest problem for us is the language barriers. Sometimes if you go to a place and you don't understand and you cannot say anything, you cannot participate, sharing, even in the Sabbath school, people try to isolate to those. So my counsel, coming back to your question, will say if you are trying to do something, especially in America, you have different groups, and it is nice when you go to a place and you see that the people who prepared that activity thought about you. You have at least a translator, or you have something prepared for you, so that make you feel welcome, and that the people understand your situation.
They feel fully.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've been to a number of Hispanic churches and been invited to preach, and I'm learning to preach with the translator.
Nice.
The timing, is really important between the two. But there's no question. I can just see on their faces when the translator speaks. I can see when the understanding is there, what a difference it makes.
Yeah.
And I could understand that. I could, your sons, they pray in Spanish. And it has a heart issue. I mean, it's tied to those emotions they heard Dad pray, and so language is a big deal when it comes to worship. Worshiping in our own, our main language that we use, your first language that we use, is special to all of us. It's something we need to protect. I appreciate that. That's a good story. I appreciate you sharing that. So Roberto, I want to go back a little bit to your parents. You mentioned that you were raised in Argentina and that your parents were both teachers. Tell us a little more about your parents and their influence on your life.
Okay, my parents were always very strong in their faith, very committed to the Adventist Church. So I was blessed because they always taught us about God. They pray with us. We have worship every day with them. And so they always were faithful, and they taught us that no matter what, God has a church, and the church have many problems, like any other institutions. We are humans, but we are here not just to be served. We need to serve others. And my parents, they were teacher in an Adventist school. They were just 2 teachers, 100 students. And my father was the principal, the teacher, the housekeeper, and everything. So the whole family were part of us serving. We were cleaning the school, we were helping. I was going with him to visit the parents. Their ministry was not just them. That was the whole family were included in there. So they passed to us the Adventist faith, that we always should trust in God, no matter what, and that God always has to be first in your life. If you are not going to build anything, God is out of your equation.
What a beautiful heritage you have. So I imagine Christian education was important to them, that you receive all throughout your life as well.
Yeah, it was.
Now, You're the coordinator of the Hispanic Ministries in Mid-America, which covers, 9 states plus the corner of another one. And when you go to the Hispanic churches, they're all the same, right? They all the cultures are the same when you go. Is that correct?
No, it's not. Even the language is the same. You can find maybe in one church maybe 15, even 26 different countries worshiping together. And that's a big challenge because everybody thinks that their culture is the right one. Their way to do the church is the right one. So every culture, every country, we have people from Mexico, we have from Puerto Rico, Central America, South America. Every culture, this is part of the natural human being. We think that we have the right culture, the right way to do the things. And so that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, how to come together. And so the pastor, they have to share with the members that we are not Argentinian church, we are not a Mexican church, we are a church right here with many cultures. So we need to learn together, we need to accept that things are done different, maybe right here, other cultures, others countries do the things different, not just the food. That's wonderful that they have different kind of make the food and they have different name for the same food. But we need to learn that we are under Jesus Christ culture. And we are not going to do things like are done in Argentina, or Peru, or Brazil, or any other country. We are trying to do following Bible principles right here. So it is funny, but sometimes churches, they get a little fighting each other, but we are learning. And so by the grace of God, we are getting much better regarding that.
I think that is something that your brothers and sisters in the church that are not Hispanic don't realize and think about. Every one of your churches is a melting pot of cultures. But I will say this, that the churches that I visit, the Spanish-speaking churches that I visit, no matter what culture they're from, they're still some of the most gracious and generous people you could ever want to be around. And they're my favorite places to go for a potluck. The food is always amazing when I go to those churches. It's a blessing. So, you talked about the cultural challenges just within a congregation, even a small congregation. Have you experienced or seen other times when you've met prejudice that you've had to work through as a church family or even individually that you've experienced here in your journey, even as part of the church?
Yeah. Yes. I was the first pastor at the New Haven Church in Kansas Nebraska Conference, Overland Park. You know the church over there. So normally the Hispanic churches, they start out like a Sabbath school branch. And by the grace of God, we had a blessing that the Hispanic churches are growing. So later on, we become a company. So the board, the church board decide, well, now you are a company. We're going to charge you rent for use the facility on Sabbath and then on Wednesday for prayer meeting. So the Hispanic members, they thought that that was not right. They said, we are not treated right, we are Christian, how they're going to charge us rent, and this is not right. But they want me to go and talk with the board, and one of the characteristics of the Hispanic people, they are humble, and sometimes they will not say much because language barrier, or they try to avoid conflict. But they were feeling that. Say, well, this is prejudice because we are part of the same faith. How can it be? A lot of questions. So we become later a church. We were more than 100. And one day the church told us, well, I think it's going to be a good idea if you start finding a new temple, a new church, because this is too small for you, and we would like you to succeed, to keep growing. And so they didn't take it well either that. They thought that they were expelled from the church. But what I want to share with you this, by the grace of God, we got a building. It was a nice building, and the church was growing. And so when we were in Olathe, Kansas, one of the Christians from India, they were around 12. They came to us, said, well, we are a small group, and we'll start a new church right here in this community. We'd like to start using your facility. So when I present to the board of the Hispanic Church, I think they will say, well, Pastor, give it them for free. Let's help them because they are too small. But for my surprise, they said, well, we need to charge them a rent and a very high one. So, and I told them, how quickly you forget, because months ago you were asking for mercy to other people. So just I'm telling this because I think we all have problems as a human being. In every country you will have people that believe that they are better than the others. If you have an education, sometimes they believe that they're better than others who do not have education. You have money than the other who don't have money. If you have a good job, or by the skin color, or by your last name, some people think they are better. And even sometimes the nationalism in the church, I was telling that some people think, well, Mexico is better than the other, or Peru is better. So, and I think we all need to, there's room that we need to grow to trying to understand each other instead of separating us, trying to build bridges to how to work together. Because I think if we learn how to work together, we are going to benefit each other. Even the Hispanic churches and the Anglo churches will benefit working together. But I think we all have a problem in our heart. And this is my main concern, that God needs to change our heart. And if we have a new heart, we are going to learn how to treat others with respect and with love.
Well, that was beautifully said, and a great illustration. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. You know, I believe what you said is so true. When we come together and with a dose of understanding in our hearts for the differences that we have, and we celebrate those things and appreciate those things, we are so much stronger together, and we can do things to bless each other. Is there one more thing you can think of that you would like to share to your fellow English-speaking members of Mid-America? What can we do as a church family, the English-speaking group? What can we do to bless you and your work with the Hispanic people that live within our region?
Okay. One thing I will say, don't let the language barrier to separate it. Sometimes people say, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't know if they're going to understand me. But I think everybody understands a smile, a hug, even though that we cannot hug each other. But I think everybody understands the love language. So even though that we cannot communicate well as we wish to, I think there is certain things that we could make to feel the Hispanic people welcome. and even understanding that sometimes we want to communicate with you, we want to participate, but sometimes we think, well, what if I say something if they don't understand me? So I don't want to be embarrassed by that. Sometimes we prefer to keep silence and for the language barrier. So, but I think I have seen through the years that the church is learning, and I think that also the Hispanic, we need to learn that we need to embrace the other cultures, and not just to separate us, trying to also us make efforts to meet a certain point together, so we can benefit, as you said, each other from our strength. Yeah.
Amen. Well, I want to just tell you, you're greatly appreciated in Mid-America.
Thank you.
You have a huge job. The scope of what you deal with is amazing to me. People don't realize, but he works closely with people at the North American Division, and is the one who relates and brings to us all of the initiatives that are happening in the Hispanic world. And on top of that, you work in a local conference and you're a pastor. And so God bless you in your journey. Thank you for the way you give yourself to the Lord and all that you do for Him. You make a real difference in Mid-America for Jesus. Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Amen.